Welcome back to the Expat Community, where you're joined by myself, your host, Noor. And for today's episode, we got the expat member,
Salem.
So I'm excited to have you on today to be speaking on about, I want to say traveling, but not just quite traveling, because in our position right now, we've actually traveled for work, you could say. Now, I've only got a one-sided, not an argument per se, but I've only got a one-sided opinion because I've only moved to work to Qatar, whereas you've been elsewhere as well for work. So I would love to delve into what you've learned on the job in different countries and how it affects everything.
So I've worked in quite a couple of places, different cities, different countries, different communities, different cultures. And if we're talking about in terms of working abroad, my first experience was, and you would think like, why is this your first experience? All the way in China. You're talking complete opposite side of the world. So I've gone from the UK, it's about a 30-hour flight, all the way down to the east.
That's crazy. So you've ticked off some of the east. So you went from the Far East and right now in the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What other east is left? East?
That's it, honestly.
No, but China, wow, okay. Just like you said, that is a bit of a crazy decision to make in the sense that who thinks, oh, let me move to China for work? Yeah. What made you think about China?
Yeah, exactly. So if we're following on from college, okay, so I go to college and then I get the opportunity to go and study all the way, at a different university down south. I wanted a little bit more autonomy. I wanted to be a little bit more independent. So I went down to university down south, all the way in Winchester. And it was, even though I'm still in the UK, it was a big culture shock because I live in Birmingham originally. It's a very mixed community, a melting pot of different cultures. So I've moved down south. There's a lot of English people. So it was a completely new experience for me. So that's kind of like where I started to want to find myself, be a little bit more independent. And this was kind of like the introduction to my journey of becoming that person that travels. And that's what I always wanted to do. And obviously while I was there, I was studying English. That was my degree. And ultimately the goal is to teach English as a second language. That's what I always wanted to do. And the reason I want to do it is because it gives me the opportunity to travel. A lot of people around the world, they want to learn English. And so I could kind of kill two birds with one stone by teaching abroad and being able to travel and experience different cultures. So do my research online, things like that. I found that China was a very good place to start. There's a lot of job opportunities, and one of the good things about China as well is you work through agencies, and these agencies, they're very, very used to kind of hiring teachers from abroad and introducing you to kind of that line of work. And the whole process, they make it very simple for you. So that's essentially where it started. So I looked online, I did a couple of interviews, a couple of hilarious interviews that went completely wrong.
What, from your side or just
honestly,
the whole process?
Oh my God. Yeah. So
you got to explain one of them moments.
So one of the first, so at the time I was obviously in Winchester, and I was also working in Subway at the time. And I got a job interview, super excited about it. So they've reached out to me. They said, okay, what we want you to do is we want you to give a demo lesson. So you're going to give a 5-minute demo lesson, and you're going to act as if you've got a group of kids, young kids, and they're learning something. They're learning a subject. So I was thinking, okay, what am I going to teach them? And I came up with the idea of shapes. I thought, okay, shapes. And I'm thinking, I've got no shapes on me. I'm a student at university. Where am I going to get shapes? I'm not going to go out and buy shapes. Oh, wait a second. I work at Subway. Let's see what we can get. So I went down, because I was actually living above the store at the time, and picked up a piece of pepperoni. That's my circle. Picked up a piece of the cheese. They have that triangular cheese.
Nice. You got shapes in the job already?
I'm using what I've got, right? I'm using my
That's
tools.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I've took them back up, and they said, you need to record this and send it to us. So I've stuck this cheese on the wall, and I've stuck this piece of pepperoni on the wall as well. And I've got my little phone on there, and I've turned my phone on. And I'm like, all right, guys, welcome. We're going to learn about shapes today. You can see this is a circle. And literally the moment I've said circle, the salami that I try to stick is just flopped. It flops onto the floor, and I'm there, and I pick it up, and I try to stick it back on, and then I complete this lesson, and then I send it to them. And I have no teaching experience. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Is this in the early years of your getting your degree teaching?
I'm still, in my degree. I'm in my 3rd year, but I've had no teaching experience. I just do my English course, and I send this to them, and then they don't even respond properly. They're just like, Yeah, we're full. They were just like, someone else has taken the job type. I don't remember exact message they sent me, but it was just very blunt, very straight to the point. And I was
Do
like,
you
oh,
personally
God.
blame the salami for that?
Honestly, it should have been a bit stickier,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to stick on those walls. Yeah. I mean, the cheese held up, but the salami didn't do the job. But yeah, that was the funny interview. But then I had another interview after that. So they sat in front of me. There was a couple of people, and they just asked me different questions. And then the thing was with Chinese people, they're very, very proud of their culture, and they always love it when people from different countries, they show an interest in their culture as well, especially Westerners. So I've done this interview. It went very, very well. And then they excitedly, because they were like excited to get to know me, they were like, okay, so what do you know about Chinese culture? Like, what's your favorite Chinese dish? And I'm sitting there stumped, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know any Chinese dishes apart from, we get, the Chinese.
What, your
food
local
from down.
Chinese
Yeah,
stuff?
we're not really, we're not really educated on that. And in the moment, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, I really like sushi. And you could have just heard a pin drop in that moment. Their faces just went from happy to, and then the silence was just broken by one of them like, that's Japanese. And I was like, oh, I've flunked another interview. Thankfully, my initial interview was good. They actually reached out to me, and they were actually open to continuing with
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah,
there was hope
I
there
actually
then?
got it though in the end, yeah.
Well, that's crazy. Well, I've learned something new there because I know primarily sushi is Japanese, like Japanese cuisine. I thought Chinese have their own version.
I'm not sure about their own. I know they bring it in and people eat it, but I don't think it's primarily one of the Chinese dishes. And honestly, when I actually eventually went to China, you'll learn a lot about what Chinese food actually is. Yeah.
Did you learn much about China other than moving there for the job?
And before I went to China.
No, when you actually arrived in China.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I got there, I learned loads. Even beforehand, I kind of like looked up. I tried to learn the language. I tried to learn the basics. So when I actually eventually got there, I was based in an area called Montago. So Beijing is this huge city in the north, and they have these kind of like outer rings that go further and further away from the city, and it gets a little bit more rural the more you go out. So the area that I was in was they were not used to foreigners at all. Right. There was no English speakers. Everywhere I walked in the streets, I was getting stared at. People would come over to me, like touch me, look at my hair, touch my beard. I had a longer beard at the time. Right. So there was a lot of that. But it was good for me because within the city of Beijing itself, there are a lot of expats, there are a lot of students there as well from different countries. So I wouldn't have really got a taste of proper Chinese culture. So being out there in the outer ring, I learned quite a lot. I adapted to language. Their food was the biggest thing for me, getting used to their way of eating.
Of course, your taste buds, that's a culture shock to your taste buds, never mind you as a person.
It was. I remember the first day I walked into this restaurant and I'm just seeing all these shapes and these colors of things. And for me, it's like completely new. I'm looking for the shrimp fried rice and, the noodles and things like that, what I'm used to. But no, they're completely different. They have a very healthy diet. And then you have these things called I don't know if these are the century eggs. Like it's like an egg and it's almost translucent, but brown in a way.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so it does take a while for that one I didn't have. I couldn't. I didn't have the courage to try that one.
Everyone has a limit, right?
Yeah. But it's not as bad as the scorpions and the other things that they had out there.
Yeah. It's interesting though. What you just said earlier, that the area you went to, it was a shock for the locals as well, seeing you, because they haven't really seen many foreigners there. I was talking to a brother not long ago. I actually did an episode with him, and he literally said it from his black culture perspective. Yeah. What he said was when he went to China, they were shocked at the skin color to begin with, and they were questioning him. But I did ask him, I said, is that not weird for you as a person? Like, we're from the West, we see black people, we see brown people, we see white people, this is normal. He said he went in with an open mind, saying that he knows they're not being racist. So you can't just judge them saying, why are they looking at me like I'm just a black person? Like, you got to understand that they've never seen foreign people. Yeah. Would you say that was the same for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I'm very, I'm pretty pale. I'm half Arab, so I have those Arab features. But even as a white person, if a white person walked into that area, they would also get stared at. Right. And for me, I went in there as well, also understanding, and I learned this as well through my experience there, that it wasn't racism. They're genuinely just curious, and it's like, you've seen an alien of some sort, you're seeing something that you've never seen before. So for them, it's just, they're sitting there and they would stare and they would approach and they would just kind of like look at you. But it was all innocent, all innocent behavior from my experience. I don't think they'd seen anyone with a beard before as well. I had a pretty big beard at the time, and I had very curly hair, long curly hair.
Not the typical Chinese style.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was a culture shock because, they would come and they would I walked into a bank one time and they've come and a hand on my beard and a hand through my hair, and they want to take pictures. And you would assume like if they were racist, they would just kind of be this kind of negative behavior towards you. They wouldn't really want to approach you as happily as they usually do. But once you speak to them, it's all smiles. They want to take pictures. They pull their kids forward. So it was a lot of, positive vibes around it. I definitely wouldn't say it was anything malicious.
Right. No, of course. So you obviously went there for a job. You were teaching there. And so you adapted to all that. You adapted to all that. Did you think it was difficult to begin with when you're teaching kids? Because they're still new to this. Young minds, seeing an Arab guy. Was it weird for them? Like, oh, my teacher is now an Arab guy. What's this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the school itself has hired foreign teachers before. So a lot of the students weren't particularly surprised when I came. They weren't just like, oh my God, we've got this teacher that, a guy from the UK or something. There were some that were, but a lot of them weren't. It was me that was the more surprised one. I mean, this is a new experience for me. And I was just kind of thrown right in there. I have no teaching experience at all. I didn't get my PGCE at the time. I just went in straight away. Okay, done my interview, straight away, right in the job the next day. And I've come straight from university. I've just graduated, straight in there, no training.
That's good character development for yourself, though. Wow, being thrown in the deep end like that straight away.
It felt like I've just been picked up and thrown in. Forget about the deep end in a pool. It was like I was thrown in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So I walked into, I remember they took me through the school, took me around a little bit, and they kind of disguised it as me, going around the school and having a look at it. Okay, we'll show you around the school. The next thing, they've opened this door, pushed me in, and the guys literally said to me, he's like, good luck. And then he's closed the door on me. And I wasn't even prepared to teach at that point. And I've turned around and there's literally 50 kids, it seemed like 100 at the time, and individual desks sitting there politely staring at me. And I've just gone, what on earth? Like, what am I going to do here? I honestly, it was just, but for me, it was a good way to kind of just really went through, the toughest. I think I'm never going to get put into a tougher situation than that. So I had to learn the hard way, and I had to build myself off of that.
Of course, but now you've been through it, so the worst of the worst is already done. So now you can always adapt to it. Now, I've got a funny story about China. Now, this is the whole thing that ruined it for me personally. Yeah. I've got nothing against China, but if anything, I want to clarify now. I think I've got a problem with my uni lecturer at the time. So when I was in university, me and my very good friend Zach, who I went to uni with, there was a seminar on, not related to our course, it was literally for teaching in China. So we went to it, we were sat at the back, we were literally taking notes like, oh wow, this sounds like a cool opportunity, moving to China. Now, it happens to be as well for me, I've never been China, it'll be my first ever job moving out. Yeah. So there's a lecturer selling the idea of teaching in China. Yeah. And I promise you now, right, what happened was the lecturer at the end goes to me and my friend Zach, he's a Somali guy, black guy as well, goes, can I please speak to you two at the end? But it sounds all great, because at the time, me and him were like, wow, we've been fast-tracked. Oh my God, like, he's picked us. Like, we didn't at the time. Yeah. Because we were like, oh my God, he's chose us two. Like, is he going to send us directly to China? So we went back, head on our shoulders, like, come on, yes, this is great. And he goes, I really don't want to break anything loose for you. I don't want to sound nasty or anything. Chinese people can be racist, so I want you to think about it. Now, this is my first ever time hearing something about like this. And because a lecturer said it, I think I believed it more. Yeah. But now hearing it from you, hearing it even from the other brother I was talking to originally, it doesn't sound like it is racist. I understand the curiosity, but at the time, we're young uni students trying to see what the world can offer us. And to hear, are you sure you want to go China? The racist? We were like, damn, we're not exactly the people to go then, is it? Yeah. So we thought about it and we talked to each other and we're like, nah, let's not go China then. Yeah. But I'm not going to lie, out of my ignorance, I think that did hold on to me for a long time. I was like, China's not for me. But then now speaking to you and other people, it doesn't seem like that. So where is that stigma? I really want to understand, where is that stigma from that they're racist?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it initially does come from the way that they react to people. Like if they see someone of a different skin color, the way they look at you, etc. I think it might come from that. But that's not to say like it doesn't exist at all. I personally didn't really experience it, but I know other people did in different areas. So I do believe in certain areas it does exist, especially towards black people. There is this.
I understand that because racism in the world, whether you like it or not, that I understand, of course.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like it's at okay, you're brown, black, don't go to China. It's like you could say the same thing about the UK or America. It's very prevalent. I mean, you have groups, racial hate groups, just kind of dominating certain states and things like that. Yeah, and I know a friend of mine as well, Yemeni, and he's a bit, Yemenis are a little bit browner than Libyans and stuff. And he went to China. He is actually there before me, and I was also working with another Egyptian brother. And people love them. People absolutely love them. I mean, I was in Mentago with this Egyptian fella, and all families loved him. And then I had my other friend who went down south. I believe it's called Guangzhou down south. And that's very, very, like if you talk about a melting pot, Guangzhou is full of brown people, black people, Arabs, etc. Yeah. And a lot of them, Muslims as well. There's a huge Muslim community there too. And even where I was, there was a smaller Muslim community, but it was present. And I never experienced any of that. It was just all curiosity and then, we want to be friends with you, we want to talk to you, and we want to take 1 million pictures of you as well. There was a lot of that.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah. So that's one thing I did learn. Like, again, not just from yourself, now you mention it, but other people saying there's a fine line between racism and curiosity. But you as a person need to understand that. So I have learnt that. I have absolutely learnt that. So if I have another chance to go back to that lecture, I'll say, mate, because of you, I never went to China. No, but that's cool. Still sticking to the point in China, I just wanted to ask about you adapting to everyday life in the sense that in England, it's as quick as hopping on a bus, going to the town centre, get in your car, go drive somewhere. How on earth did you get around that in a different country, different money, currency, all of that?
Yeah. And because, like I mentioned, I went to the outer ring of Beijing, pretty far from the center. It was tough, especially at the beginning. Everything is different. You've got it's a completely different language as well. Language is one of the hardest obstacles to overcome. When you look around you and you just see everything written in symbols that you're unfamiliar with. People when you try to attempt to talk to people in English and they have no idea what you're saying, you have to resort to like hand gestures, etc. Or you're pulling out Google Translate or something like that. So that was one of the hardest things, the language barrier. And then also there was the food as well. Food was, I think for me personally, very, very tough. I found that very hard.
In what sense? Is it because you didn't like the food or?
Yeah, because I would go to a supermarket. You would go to a supermarket and you'd find a lot of things that you're used to. And this is obviously being brought up in the West, you get all these different brands. For these were brands that I was unfamiliar with. And it was just food that I was very unfamiliar with, things that were packaged, and it was just very unfamiliar to me. Obviously very normal for them, but for me growing up in the West, I'm not used to this kind of food. I'm walking to a restaurant. So I resorted to eating a lot of rice and a lot of vegetables, because those were the two things at the beginning that I was, I can't really go wrong with that, And I would just see all these different colored things in pots and etc. And it was very, very tough. But that was at the beginning. And then I thought, I'll do a little bit more walking around. And I actually eventually managed to find a restaurant. It was a halal restaurant as well. And they would do like beef and, beautiful beef and soups and ramens, things like that. It wasn't exactly ramen. It was like pulled noodles, I think. And then I was there every day. They were doing this beautiful barbecue and they just knew me. Okay. At that point, as soon as I walked in, the woman was just like, this is what you want. And I learned to order in the language as well. I would walk in and say like, I'd have 2 beef barbecue things, rice, and then she would just be like, okay, I know what you want. And it was just like an everyday. It was very cheap as well. So I was able to overcome those. With the language thing, I did learn at a conversational level, so I was able to get around.
You say you learned, would you say basics or enough to converse?
The basics to get around. Obviously, before I went there, I actually started learning. I was watching videos. I pulled out like a couple of learning apps, and I was just practicing. And the hard thing is the pronunciation. Yeah, the pronunciation is a tonal language, so it was very difficult to overcome that. And then I would try to practice with people, and then they would, tell me about the different, to make this slight different sound. And I had a little bit of a funny story, that one actually. And I could be getting this wrong. This was a while back when I learned these words. But the word for teacher, I believe, was like lao shi. That's the word for teacher. And then the word for mouse was very similar sounding, especially with someone that doesn't speak that. It was like lao shu, like it was very similar. So people were asking me like, oh, what do you do? And I ended up telling people that I'm a mouse, apparently. I was telling all these people and they're all looking at me like, you know, I'm a mouse. Yeah, I'm a mouse. And I was so confidently saying it to them until I told a friend of mine, I was like, yeah, I've been getting around. People have been asking me. And he's like, yeah, you've been telling people that you're a mouse, by the way, just this whole time.
And that would explain why they're probably walking off.
That's the exact reason, yeah.
I understand that every language is difficult, but Mandarin, everyone knows this for a fact, is one of the hardest languages in the world. So hats off to you to even attempt that. That's crazy. That's cool. Now, Mandarin being a hard language, the only thing I can ever say is now, obviously with my heritage being Bangladeshi, with my parents, I've learnt Bengali. We say Bengali. I'm fluent in Bengali, don't get me wrong. But to a limit, I like to think I'm fluent because, and this gets me every single time, when I go visit family back in Bangladesh, I am fluent and I stand by my point to this day. When I speak Bengali to them, I converse. But then what follows afterwards is my own family in Bangladesh laughing at me. I'm like, why are you laughing? They're like, we understand your Bengali, but it's a bit funny when you speak. I'm
it's
like,
your accent, isn't it? Yeah, I think your
so
accent's
I'm like, wait,
coming out.
what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you've got an accent. You're not pronouncing some words correctly. But so I understand that part. But at least I've learned that for cultural reasons and heritage reasons. At least I can speak. And I've made terms with, you know what? Okay, it's a bit funny, but at least I can speak. Now, Mandarin, I wouldn't know where to start. So that's crazy.
And the thing I learned with Mandarin, though, was the more ridiculous you try to sound, the closer you will sound to the original. So I remember I was practicing with this one guy and I was saying the word, he's like, no, and he kept repeating it and I'm thinking, I think I got to a point where I was just frustrated and then I just really stressed the word. I was like, is it, and then he was like, yes. And I was like, oh. So I've just got to get a little bit frustrated and then that's it. I've got the pronunciation down.
At least that's a strategy you learn.
Yeah, exactly. There's these very subtle differences that you need to really know.
Now, one more point on about China. So you were teaching there. Teaching everywhere in the world is going to be different. Not just behavior management, etc., all of that. What strategy did you learn to manage your, I want to say foreign kids, but they're obviously not foreign in their own country. Yeah. But in our sense, yeah. What strategy did you even manage to be like, okay, I'm teaching kids English. They don't know nothing about English. Yeah. How did you overcome that barrier?
So like I mentioned, like I didn't have any teaching experience. I didn't do the PGC at the time. It was me kind of like just going with it at first. Initially, I was just trying to go with it, just put words up on the board and try to go through it, you know? And they left me to my own devices while I was there. And I kind of would just try to see what worked and what wasn't working. And then, you know, through, you know, seeing how the students responded and, you know, how they were able to learn, I would kind of make slight changes to it. Behavior management wasn't too important. I know there is this stereotype that Chinese students, they're all perfectly behaved. I thought that as well. Right. It wasn't the case. It wasn't always the case. But there were a lot of good students, you know, a lot of quick learners. And you'd have in a class, you'd have students that could speak English beautifully, and then others that didn't understand it when you said hello. So I was just, it was a bit, in my country, in Libya, we say tabiqa. It's like a kind of like a curry. Oh. So when everything's going like a bit mayhemish, you just say, oh, this is tabiqa, you know, this is just like all over the place. And that's how it was for the longest time. Wow. But I really tried to kind of, you know, learn myself and, you know, try so many different methods, look up videos online. And then slowly, it kind of just managed to kind of just come to me. And then I think by the end of it, I was doing much better.
That's great for China, man. Wow, I wish I could experience that. And obviously in teaching, the whole world needs teachers. So you never know, the world's your oyster. Or is that the saying, the world's your oyster?
Yeah, the world's your oyster, yeah.
Spot on. Right, at least I got that correct. So yeah, other than China then, we'll talk about the Middle East very soon, okay? Like I said earlier, from the Far East to the Middle East. And then we'll talk about the other Easts later. Where else have you been in terms of... Well, character development, of course. Or when you teach on the job, it's character development. Where else have you been?
America was one of them. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So I'd actually been to America while I was in my first and second year at university. There was this agency, I think they were an agency of some sort. They would come in and they show you these, I think they were wild packs, and they would show these beautiful trailers.
Right.
We were talking about this the other day.
We were.
Yeah.
This is Oh, well, please go ahead
Something
though.
that we talk, and this is like because we know how much of an amazing experience it was. As soon as I mentioned it to you, like wild packs, and I could see your face lit up because it was such a good memory, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you went for summer camp. You went for
Yes,
summer camp, of
yeah.
course. Now, for those that don't know, summer camp is an American thing where you'll go during the summer, and whoever signs up to the camp, you do activities with them every week. At least for me, for example, my camp was every week there would be a new cohort coming in. So every week I would meet new kids, do activities. Now, there's a lot more to it, but I want to ask you first, where were you based at for your camp?
So in 2015, I was based in the state of New York on Long Island. So there was a lot of rich kids there, a lot of kind of like rich parents, rich families, beautiful campus. And then in 2016, the following year, I had to go again. I went to Philadelphia.
Was it similar experiences in both camps?
Completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say,
very
you won't get the
different.
same one, right?
Yeah, different states to some extent, almost like different countries. You know, the people that you meet, the norms, very, very different.
So for me, I went to Minnesota, and I remember my camp name because I've never heard such a name before. It's called Camp Esquagama, right? And beautiful camp in Minnesota. There's one thing I learned about Minnesota. It's known as the land with 10,000 lakes because there's so many lakes. Now, the funny fact is, it's actually got more than 10,000 lakes. So I don't know why they stopped it at 10,000. Yeah. But wow, every lake was different, beautiful. It was a nice place. Now, I learned a lot on that job, I want to say per se. I wouldn't exactly say I was teaching there, but it was the first experience of me dealing with children. For me personally, it was. And I want to think that got me into the mindset, maybe I want to be a teacher, right? Now, what sort of duties did you get into, activities?
So in 2015, I went to, that camp was a day camp. Because they do offer day camp and night camp. And for those people who don't know, the day camp just kind of runs from the morning, like a normal school day, up until about 3 o'clock. And then the kids go home and then you go back to your own place. And you stay there. With the night camp, you're with the kids the entire 24/7. You're with them. And you stay with them for, I think, for about, with some kids, groups of kids, it's like 1 week and some 2 weeks. So in 2015, I got the job because the camp owner, the CEO, his grandfather passed away. And his grandfather was a boxer. And so in order to honor his grandfather, who started this camp, who opened this camp, it's called West Hills Day Camp, by the way. It's shut down now. In order to honor him, he wanted to do, offer boxing just for that year. So he got me to do some shadow boxing on the camera. It was very, like, the interview was lovely. It was just like talking to a group of friends. And, So I went there and they set me up with my own place, beautiful place. They bought like boxing bags, gloves, everything. And that was my duty, yeah. So from the morning until about 3 o'clock, they would do like the round, kids would do these rounds. So I think they'd have their own names and colors. And then at this time they would be doing swimming and then they'd go to football and they'd come to boxing and they had their own schedules. So I would have all these kids come to do boxing, you teach them how to punch, foot movement, all these different things, combinations, etc. Yeah.
Oh, what a nice way to honor as well. That's nice.
It was very nice. Yeah, it was really, really nice. And next door to me, there was I made friends with this guy who was offering karate as well. So they had the two, we were off all the way to the side. All the other activities were all the way to kind of like the west of the camp. And me and him were up this hill it was like you have to do this big warm up on the hill to get to us. So I was doing that big climb every morning. So I was just involved in boxing. The problem with that though is it was a lot of younger kids, and a lot of these younger kids have no interest at all in boxing. Right. So this is kind of, and this is before China, by the way. This is where I didn't know how to handle it. And they said, "Oh, I don't want to do boxing." Oh, they put on the gloves and they're like, "Oh, da 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 da," and it was just trying to get blood out of a stone to get any of them engaged. Nice. And it would just end up with just playing some random game of some sort. Yeah. So that was the 2015. But they would also, they weren't supposed to do this at the camp. They also hired us at the camp to do all sorts of activities like before the camp had opened, like even earlier in the morning. They had us painting, they had us cleaning, and they had us like chopping hedges, etc. So we were just very involved with everything at that camp, yeah. And then the following in 2016, it was a night camp. So you're in charge, and you would know this, you're in charge of a group of kids, set group of kids. They come, you introduce them to their bunkers, etc. You assign them beds, etc. And then you're the one, you take them to different activities. So we take them fishing, we would take them kayaking, the rock climbing, and a lot of different activities. You take them to food, and that was a lot more taxing. That was very, very exhausting because you're putting these guys to sleep, you're waking them up in the morning, you've taken them to eat. That was very exhausting. Yeah.
essentially, this is the way I looked at it. I became a father before I actually became a father at the time, and it's crazy. Now, it was an experience, right? And to this day, I honestly do say this. Now, I haven't traveled everywhere in the world, but I've been to a fair few countries. I love experiences, but the best experience I've probably ever done is Camp America. I can't lie. I don't know, there's something about it. I just enjoyed it. Not only was it just, obviously, not just taking care of the kids, I met some lifelong friends there. I did 1 year with them. Well, I say 1 year. For the summer, I met them, and we still stay in contact now, you know? So it's a good character development. Yeah. And would you say that influenced you into possibly teaching?
Yeah, I think it cemented it for me, because I was always like, okay, doctor, teacher, you know. The doctor thing, even though I did want to be a doctor, it was more of like my dad really wanted me to be a doctor, wanted me to be a doctor, you know.
That's hilarious. Listen, we call that the Asian mindset, but now apparently it's the Arab mindset. Exactly. We, growing up, had 3 options: engineer, doctor, or a lawyer. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, what? Is that the world?
Oh, for me, it was just doctor. There wasn't even those 2 other options. It was like doctor, or don't even bother doing anything at all, you know? You're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a bin man. You know, that was
There's no in between.
There's no in between at all, yeah. So for me, it did cement it though, because even though it was exhausting, there was that sense of like fulfillment, that enjoyment, you know, and creating those friendships with those children and other people that you work with, seeing them learn something that you've taught them. You know, you introduce them to something that's so normal to you, but to them it's just like, wow, like their face just glows up, you know? Yeah. So for me, it really did cement that, yeah, this is something that I could definitely see myself continue to do.
Like you said, that is cemented for you. I would say it did the same for me as well. So after I did that, I looked straight into getting into teaching. Yeah. And funnily enough, before I started my course, because I did a SKIT course. I don't know if you know what a SKIT course is. So essentially it stands for School-Centric Initial Teacher Training, where most of the time I was already in school. So it was more practical than just half uni, half school. So I was more on the job, basically. But they asked me in my interview saying, what is it about teaching why do you want to get into it? And my only thing I said was, I did summer camp. I learned how to deal with kids, so that's behavior management already. Now, I didn't say exact behavior management, but of course, getting them, well, not you getting them changed, but telling kids to get changed and go to bed at this time, making sure they eat breakfast on time. Yeah. I was like, listen, I'm a father. That's all it is. So I was like, I know how to deal with behavior. Don't worry about that. I've dealt with the worst of it. But the summer camp experience really made my mind up that I do want to get into teaching. And other than that, the experience, I don't know what else to say. Best experience I've done.
It was beautiful. I think one of the things as well for us, you know, grow up in the UK, although we do have our naturistic spots, in America it was just full of it, and you just see nature that you haven't experienced your entire life. You just see this beautiful greenery and blue skies and lakes and turtles and everything, and that's what it was like when we would take these kids. We would take them to the lakes, and then you know, we're doing fishing, and this is stuff that we've just never done before. So I think that's what cemented us. Although when you do the night day camp, though, there is a lot of responsibility and so many things that can go wrong. And things did sometimes, you know, take a little bit of a turn. But the amount of kids that I had to stop from getting their fingers bit off by, you know, snapping turtles. Oh, wow. Oh my God. Crazy. So they would do fishing. They said there's a little bridge, and they would fling they have their nets, they'd have their fishing rods, and they're trying to fish. A lot of the times, though, there's just snapping turtles ready, and they would just launch onto them. And the kids, like, they pick up these like thingies, and we're fighting. And then, you know how snapping turtles are. They're called snapping turtles for a reason. That thing will bite your finger.
And they're damn fast as well.
Yeah, and they just snap at you. And I'm just sitting there, okay, guys, we've got one. And it was just the kids, they just want to go in there and take the hook out. And you can't just let them do that. And you're trying to push these kids away. And the turtle, and they just keep snapping. These turtles are just constantly snapping and snapping and snapping. And you have to somehow, all right, grab its head, hold it down. You get over there, and then you're just like pulling this thing out, and you're throwing them back in the water. And I'm just thinking, and the first time I did this, they didn't tell us there was snapping turtles. It was just like, all right, guys, you're going to go fishing. Just take the kids. They have a fun time, whatever. And I've come at the end of the day, there's a lot of English people there as well. And I was like, did you guys know there was these snapping turtles in the thing? And they're like, yeah. And I'm just like, why did no one tell us about this? Isn't this a huge, like, isn't this something we should be given a lesson on, how to deal with these things?
Imagine you didn't know and you go to pet one, say bye to your fingers.
Honestly, it was just like, what? How am I supposed to deal with this?
I didn't have the problem with snapping turtle, but I did have one issue of, because I was in command most times of archery as one of the activities. Now, the first thing we got taught is the safety for archery, right? Because we weren't using, like, blunt arrows. We were literally using proper bow and arrows. It's part of the experience. Now, me as an adult, of course I understand the safety. And it goes without saying, you can teach a kid safety. We're talking about kids here, but they don't grasp what safety actually is. So the moment a kid, if they're not firing on the range and they lifted the bow, I would run out of bed. No, I'm not risking this today. You put your bow down. No one's dying on my watch. No one is. But of course, they're just young and naive, and it's fine. They're learning. They are learning. But there is one part of camp, right? If I will never forget. It is a bit upsetting now I think about it, but it's still part of a memory I will never ever forget. So at the end of the week, once summer camp's done, we would all gather around a huge fire pit we had, and we would toast marshmallows, and just every kid, we would make sure every kid mentioned what they enjoyed, etc. This and that. S'mores,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So hard, yeah.
Funnily enough, that's the first time I've ever had s'mores as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's so good as well.
Yeah, so my memory I resonate with the s'more and marshmallows is that last part. And funnily enough, we used to do this humming thing at the end of summer camp. And have you ever seen, what's that one called? Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. He's a businessman. Completely forgot the name.
Wolf of Wall Street?
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
You know that humming he does? Yeah. I don't know why that was a summer camp hum, but that's what we did.
Like a little ritual of some sort, wasn't it?
Oh, wow, okay, these are going to be some little billionaires after this hum.
Yeah.
But after that, it was upsetting knowing that this is the end of the week. And knowing that, obviously, spending a week with everyone, you do build a relationship in a way that you understand what I mean. Like, you've looked after them, you had fun, etc., and now they're going. And the saddest part was some kids would cry, and I'm looking at them like, I don't want to cry, just please stop. It was fun though, and it was a nice memory. And yeah, s'mores, fire camp, humming, bye to the kids.
It felt like you'd known the kids for a week, more than a week. You would, and I've not forgot some of these kids. They've had a long-lasting impression on me. Some of the relationships, the fun that you have, and the way they look up to you. You know what I mean? And the whole experience was amazing. Really, really amazing experience.
And you can translate that experience into teaching now.
Yep,
as well.
exactly.
Would you say you had a similar feeling when you left your kids in China?
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, it was, especially so I worked at 3 different places when I was in China. I initially had, there was the initial place that I was working at, and then during the summer, I chose not to go home. I chose to work at a summer camp. It was like a camp, but it was nothing like the camps that I went to in America. It was more of like a little school, for people to catch up, etc. And yeah, so I went to work there, and I learned a lot about teaching. And then I was working with these very young kids. And then when it was time for me to go, it was all tears, and they wouldn't let me go. They were just like, okay. And the 2 TAs that were working, they were like, don't say goodbye to them, just kind of sneak off. I don't know what I was doing. I just felt like I had to say goodbye. I said, goodbye, guys. And they all just went into tears, and they're all hugging me, these little things around, just, hugging on me, not letting me go. And I couldn't even move. They had to pull them off. And it was sad, yeah. And my other students from the other school, I have some really good, some really, really good experiences.
So going from the Far East, let's talk about the Middle East. Yeah. What now made you choose the Middle East to get into working here?
I feel like it's always been my ultimate goal to end up in a country in the Middle East and teach. Okay. China was supposed to be like a starting point, and then I was actually thinking of going to a few places, but I kind of just fast tracked it. My dad really wanted me to get my PGCE, and obviously that was a very good choice for me. So I went and got my PGCE, and that opened up the door to Qatar. And when I got that offer, when I applied, I didn't really think I was actually going to get the offer, because I was working in a UK school. And I just kind of went with it, and I had the interview, and then it went very well. And I was like, oh, wait a second, they've just offered me this opportunity. And then I'm flying out to Qatar. Yeah. And that was just like, I didn't expect to get to my dream job that quickly, Now, obviously, the Middle East isn't the West. Of course not. Now, would you say, because obviously we're both Muslim here, would you say being Muslim sort of made it easier for you to adjust in the Middle East? Because majority of the Middle Eastern countries are obviously
majority Muslim.
Yeah, I think that as a Muslim, that's one of the things that makes it easy for you if you're in a society with other Muslims.
Of course,
Because
same mindset, all of that.
yeah, because also although you do have like cultural differences, regardless of like religion, you're in the UK, understand UK, like culture of the UK, etc., etc. Muslims is like wherever they go, doesn't matter the country. If there's a Muslim community there, they're going to settle in very easily, because we have similar values, similar dietary expectations, etc. So for me, and as an Arab as well, as someone who's half Arab as well, and was brought up with in a Birmingham, with always knowing my Arab culture and my heritage, etc. It was very easy, knowing the language and being used to the food. So I settled in very, very quickly. It wasn't like China where it took me a while. It was instantly I was able to settle in. And the access to food, etc. was everything I'm used to. And you would know this as well, coming from the UK. Qatar is this. It's very easy to settle for Westerners to settle in because it's not so different. Although it has its traditions. There is a lot of Western adaptation, especially when it comes to the food, access to the certain types of food, the restaurants, your food chains, and everybody's speaking English. And it's like you're living in a holiday destination of some sort. So it's very easy for people to settle in. And for me, it wasn't that tough at all. I don't know about your experience, but...
No, so I would say I'm very similar now, other than, because obviously I'm not Arab, but I can only resonate with the Islamic side of things because obviously our main lifestyle falls down to us for our religion. Now, so that played a big part for me because I'm already adjusted to knowing what my faith is, how I should be going around things. But that being said, doesn't mean obviously while I was in England, I acted any more different. I was still the same, but there was other things you do in England. Now, when you're out here, you've already adjusted because of your faith, etc. So I found that easy. I really did find that easy. I do want to mention one thing which I find crazy because if you ask some Westerners, they have this crazy notion, the Middle East, no, I will never go and adjust there. Sharia law, all of this, you've heard it all before. I've heard it while I'm in England. So I'm like, what are you talking about? I see more Westerners that aren't Muslim here having their time of their life, more fun than I'm having. So I'm like, what is everyone scared about back home? What are you scared about when these non-Muslims are having more fun than me in a Muslim country? So if they can adjust, why can't anyone else, So now obviously teaching here, it's been a very big eye-opener for me, dealing with different cultures, how to go about stuff. There's one thing I've learned, behavior management will be anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if you're in England, America, China, Middle East, kids are going to be troublesome. You got to deal with it.
You think that, I'm going to a different country, it's going to be different, but... They're there at different degrees, but it's there.
What's the main biggest difference then? Because you're taught in China and now the Middle East. What's the biggest difference between the two?
One of the things I did want to mention was, and I'm still going back to China as well, was I haven't had to swim to school.
What?
And you're thinking, what's he on about? What do you mean swim to school? And the expectation in China was, you're going to come to school no matter what's going on. If there's a fire, if there's a storm, there's a tsunami, you're coming to work, Wow. And this is actually what did happen. In 2018, we had this very, very, very bad storm. And growing up in the UK, I've never seen anything like it. It was one of those, but we have actually seen it here, with the lightning, when it's persistent lighting at night and it just doesn't stop. We're not accustomed to that in the UK. You see a lightning strike and then it goes quiet for a while and you see another one. And I just remember relentlessly raining the entire night. And then I've come in the morning and I've gone downstairs and it's flooded everywhere. And I'm thinking, okay, they're obviously going to cancel school. Then, no, we expect you in school. I'm thinking, how am I going to get to school when I'm literally looking at, it's like the ocean has taken over the streets. Like, no, we expect you in school. So I've got my bag and everything and I've put it up here and I've literally kind of like waded through this where it's come up to here and I've done a little bit of this. It's like you're walking in a swimming pool and I'm doing this.
You're actually quite literally
I'm
swimming.
literally swimming to school in a sense. And that was the expectation. And nearly all the kids ended up coming. Some didn't. I think they lived a bit too far away and, with the rain and everything. Yeah, so I haven't had to do that. That's one thing, yeah. Although we did have some very bad rain here. We did. Didn't have to swim.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, because obviously we both stay in the Middle East, in Qatar specifically. I've seen the rain, I know what you're on about. But to swim to work, I don't think I ever want to be in that position.
Yeah, that was like, yeah, I was determined to get there. I was like, I'm not, I've got to make a good impression. I'm going to get there. And I thought I was going to get a pat on the back, but it's just like, oh, good you're here. As you should be. Don't be late. Yeah. So that was,
I'll tell you what,
one of
that's
the
something
differences.
to add to the CV.
Yeah.
Have you swum to work?
Swam to work. That shows my dedication. Guys, if you want to hire me, look, I'm willing to do this. Yeah.
Lovely.
So that was like one difference. But in terms of the biggest differences, in terms, so you're talking about like in terms of teaching or just the lifestyle in general?
Explain for both, if you could.
So like lifestyle, obviously, in China there's a lot of different things that I'm not used to. They're very, very much within their culture, things that I've never experienced, things I've never seen before. Their attitude towards teaching as well. It's actually they're very, very like rigorous. It's very I don't know how to put it into words, but there's like this structure. There's this very, very strong structure that they have, and they just do things in that structure.
Would you say, because there's a very strong stigma, not just about China, probably Japan, Korea, all of that, they're very disciplined, but it's very extreme in a sense, not in a bad way, but it's extreme discipline. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I believe so. But these kids are naturally, they don't need you to essentially tell them, okay, you guys need to learn now. They all have it within themselves. There's not much apathy there. Every student wants to learn, and they've grown up, and they know the importance of their studies. And even if you like look at the stuff about China and you see how the kids study, they're very, very serious about their studies. And I witnessed that when I was there. So they have this very, very set structure, and it's very old school as well. Repeating words and going over and over when they're learning the symbols. They're going over and they're learning them. And in Qatar, you don't really have that. I didn't really see it like that. Obviously, we have our the way that we learn. There is a structure of some sort, but it's not like old school. It brings in Western influence, especially because we're working at an international school. So there is room for that, and they adopt a lot from Western culture and the way that you learn. So that was one of the big differences. Yeah, I would say in terms of teaching. Behavior as well, there wasn't many behavior problems in China. And if it was a little bit of talking. In Qatar, obviously, I've taught in the UK is a lot worse. The behavior is really bad. So bad. Inner city Birmingham.
It's been said quite a few times, yeah.
Oh, unbelievable, the things
it's difficult. It is very difficult.
Tables, and things that I didn't want to get into. In Qatar, you have a lot of talking. There are disruptions and things with some students. But overall, the behavior is not too bad. Like relatively, it's not that bad.
You've had worse. You've had worse.
And it's not really a focal point. So I would say there's that. In terms of lifestyle, like I said, Qatar, how would you describe the lifestyle? It's very relaxed. I feel like it's very relaxed. You're living in very holiday-ish kind of like a very holiday-ish lifestyle. Cafes and coffee shops are very, they're a strong part of the culture. Restaurants, going to these higher places, Vendome, these fancy malls. In China, not like that at all. It was more like, oh, we're going to go to the park. We're going to spend our day at the park. There's a lot of, nature, involving yourself in nature. And there's this big like board game culture as well that they have. Every time you'd look out and you'd see like these people like just playing board games or card games of some sort. They'd have these little cubes with symbols on them and they're playing all these types of games. Yeah. And they're very, very into their fitness as well. And it's always the older generation. I would see like women, very old women and men. And every morning I'm going to work and they're doing star jumps and doing push-ups and jumping up and down and things. And I'm thinking, what's this? It's like they're very, very like active.
Introduced to exercise. But that's nice to hear because generally they are known to be very healthy people as well. They are. I think, as you know, let's not beat around the bush. Yeah. The Western lifestyle sometimes gets a bit lazy. Yeah. And would you rather sit there and eat chips all day rather than exercise? A lot of people do. Sadly, a lot of people do. Yeah. Whereas China, like I said, with the discipline, they're on point. They are on point. Yeah. So that's cool. That's good to know. So you've taught in 2 countries. Mm-hmm. Is there any plans that you wish teaching can take you next to a different country? Or are you thinking about settling down, being happy here?
I think I've got to a point now. Yeah, I don't look 32, but I am.
Mashallah, man. Well done.
Baby face.
Good young health, man.
Yeah. I like it here. I really like it here. For me, it's like this. I don't look for excitement anymore. I look for, peace. I just want peace. I look for safety. I look for comfort, opportunity. And here, I feel like I found that. I feel like I found that beautiful opportunity. I work in a very good school. We work at the same school. I've made some very good friends. I love the people here. I love the Qataris. They're the most, even though you might see a little frown here and there when you're outside, but once you talk to them, the way they open up, they almost like melt in your hands. They're so accommodating, so very, very welcoming. And they're very, very proud of you to enjoy their culture and to show you their culture. I mean, I met one person one time, and next day I'm going to his brother's wedding. It's so inviting and so.
It's funny you say that. The amount of expats that I've met, and they literally say the one experience of their life, here is, I've been to a Qatari wedding. It's like, as soon as you meet a Qatari, what's the next thing you do?
It's just wedding.
Come to this wedding,
straight
brother.
away. Yeah, that's like the way to break the ice. You got to come to a wedding.
But it's lovely. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I like
nice.
that, and I feel like if I had a family here, and it's safe, and it's not so different from home as well. It's like that nice balance of home and this country itself, the tradition, and it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful combination.
With that being said, I totally agree with the lifestyle balancing because you can have a social life. You can. Now, it's up to you what you want to do, but you do work, and I've still got time to go out and explore, enjoy it. And because Qatar's, I want to say still developing, but it's crazy. The developments made here it's insane. How more further can you develop? But there's always something new to see at the end of the week. There's an event going on. Go check it out. So for me, the work and life balance, amazing. I love it. I really do enjoy it here.
I don't feel like I'm being overworked. Like I did in the UK, I felt like I was always working. And one of the big things, like you would think that if I'm overworking, there's a reward to that, and the reward from that would kind of match it, what I gained from it. But it didn't feel like it. Just felt like you're working and working and you're not getting anything. It's just getting by. And I didn't feel like there was much appreciation for teachers as well. And the behavior management, all you're doing, 90% of everything you're doing is behavior management, And while I did love, and had a very good experiences teaching there, here I feel like I can really do a lot more. I feel like I'm changing lives. I feel like I'm getting through to kids. I feel like I'm creating really meaningful relationships with them. I feel like I'm just doing a lot more, and there's a lot more satisfaction for that. And I'm not sacrificing my mental health or anything for that,
Yeah, it's a huge common thing that you've mentioned there, because a lot of people back home do say teaching in England is difficult. Even moving away from the behavior management side, you are so overworked to the point, if you leave at, say, 5 p.m., which happens, I've heard some teachers leave at 6 p.m. It's like, where do you put your family into your daily life at that point? It's insane to me. And for me, I feel blessed, though, because as soon as I'd done my teaching degree, as soon as I got an offer to come out, and so I was like, wow, okay. I don't look at it in a sense that I've been thrown in the deep end, because it would have either been teach in the UK or teach here. Yeah. Either way, I need experience. So when I came out here, this was my experience, and I've learned so much. So I can always translate that to other different schools if needed.
Yeah. You're an IT teacher. How was that experience for you? What's the job market like for an IT teacher?
You wouldn't believe it. IT teachers is what we actually say. It's hard to come by. We're like gold dust. I'm not even just saying that to big myself up. There's a reason for it, and you'll understand why. If you know, right, it is a fact. You get paid more in IT industry than you would teaching. And if you're going to get paid more, what else is someone going to get a job for? To get good pay. So if you're going to become a programmer and stacks, you're going to possibly take that. Now, for me, of course, I like the programming side, things like that. But the satisfaction I get from teaching, the feeling of changing a life. Yeah. You come in, you've done a job, they look up to you, like, thank you, sir, you taught me something. Yeah. You wouldn't get that from just programming an app for a big company that don't even care about you at the end of the day. So for me, I had to find out myself, what do I actually want in life? Am I chasing money, or am I chasing a nice lifestyle that I enjoy? Mm-hmm. So for me, it came down to industry for the money or a nice balanced life that I enjoy. And I'm not going to lie, I could have always chased money, but that's not what I'm after. Honestly, brother, I'll be honest, I'm happy with the life I've got now. Yeah. I'm earning good money, and what's the point in chasing money? My life isn't dependent on money. It's dependent on my family, enjoying the life.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, isn't it? Like, because obviously we become teachers and you have to, if you become a teacher, you must ensure that you love what you're doing and you're doing it, you have good intentions. We all do and ultimately join teaching because we enjoy, helping kids. We enjoy making a difference in their lives. But we also have to think about our own families as well. So we're not going to go into the teaching because at that point then we should just all teach for free, right? If it's just, okay, you should only care about, but what about my own family as well, about my own life? So there's that compromise, because there are other opportunities out there for us outside of the teaching world, but we want to do a little bit of both. And for me, it's like I'm making a difference in someone's life. So I feel that fulfillment. And obviously I can make a good life for my family. And in the UK, I felt like I couldn't do either of those. I felt like it was just a battle against parents and kids. Here, I feel like I feel like I get that respect. I get that appreciation. Parents, they come to me and they say, thank you so much. My child, this and this and that, was able to learn such and such. And they said they had such a good experience with you, especially you make their day. They look forward to coming to school. And I'm sure you've had the same thing. I know you create a lot of good relationships with students. And the money here is good as well, So we're able to have that good lifestyle, that good balance. Yeah.
So to end things off here, what would be some personal advice you would personally give to someone that's thinking about moving abroad for work? Yeah. And it could be anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be the Middle East. Someone wants to think about moving abroad to work. What would some advice be?
Be very, very open to culture. Be very respectful of culture. It's very, very important. Adapt to it. I'm not saying kind of forget about your own values, but try to adapt to it. Try to learn, take an interest in it, and enjoy it as well. Don't just go there because everybody else is. Go there because you want to see this opportunity. You want to experience things. And it's something that you can motivate yourself to do, because if you're not motivated, how are you going to motivate the students? How are you going to motivate anybody, So it's very, very important to learn about the culture, adapt to it, respect it, and enjoy yourself, get ready to really enjoy yourself and work hard as well. Get ready to work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time, Salem. So much. It's been great talking about it, and I've learned a lot about the Far East to the Middle East journey.
the whole cycle.
No, lovely. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great having you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.